and new stuff. We are growing so much faster than the guys on the HBO specials. From Rodney Dangerfield. I mean, those guys, they tried everything out first. We don't have that luxury. Advancing much faster, and I think that's hard for open mics to compete with what we're doing because we're like, yeah, okay, next time you do open mic, you got to have new material. What? You can't polish last week's. You can't polish last month's.
Well, that's another thing I think to mention too is topical material, because I probably had like 15 minutes of material that was going during the election or pre-election material, and I can't use any of that now because the election's over. So that's another thing too is we're kind of being in Nagoya, since we're pretty much performing for mostly expats. They kind of expect topical material, but once you do it maybe once, maybe twice, and that material's gone because you can't tell it again. It's not gonna get any laughs or make any sense. So that's I think another thing maybe the audience should think about when we get up there, and because a lot of us, pretty much all of us, I think, do political material, and that's almost always going to be topical.
And not to get too much into the political weeds, but I remember that specifically. I think it was the November show or something. It was our last November show last year, and the candidate we thought was going to win didn't win. So we had all these jokes about living under Hillary, and then she didn't win, and like some of us were throwing out half of our set, and this was. I forgot what date we played, but it was like a week after the election. It's like, okay, does anybody have 5 minutes even?
Yeah.
It's like, wow, that's a flim flam. I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I think I threw out 20 minutes of material, and I was depressed going into our show, which is, Yeah,
you had stuff like, well, I guess this is the last time I'm going to be able to tell some Trump jokes, so I got to get those in there. No, you've got probably, you may have 8 years to tell them now. One thing I wanted to mention before we sign off for this time is one more thing that you mentioned about Kill Tony, which is great. I recommend this. You can find it on YouTube. Really great. And they're very strict. I mean, the next time you hear an open mic or whine over here, I always remind them, okay, you got 1 minute at Kill Tony, and they pick your name from a hat. If you're 10 seconds late, you're disqualified and blacklisted. You're blacklisted. They call your name, you're supposed to run on the stage. Yeah. And it's like 8 seconds or something. And they're not there, boom, blacklisted, and we're not picking you again.
Yeah, and I think they said something like 300 people a night sign up for that thing. So
yeah, and this is in the basement of a comedy. I mean, there's a comedy show going on above them, and then they've got a basement. They've got this thing on the podcast, and if you go over a minute, you also get penalized. They scream at you for that. So it's harder than it sounds to basically get 58 seconds or something, and you don't know if you're going on or not. It must be exhilarating. It must be really petrifying to not. I mean, when you do the Olympics, you're in the Olympics, but it's like. Okay, and now Steve is pole vaulter. Wait a minute, I was prepared to swim. No, you're a pole vaulter. Go.
Right.
All right, 58 seconds of pole vaulting. How did I do? And sometimes the comics that are, they're brutal too.
Yeah.
Criticize them. It's thanks for dressing up for us. Yeah, well, I didn't know it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times the critique isn't even anything the comedian said at all. It's just how the guy looks or whatever, and they can go on for 5 minutes just by the way you look sometimes.
They've had a couple where the guy gets on and they don't even talk about his material. They talk about the guy 2 people ago.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I wish that guy hadn't gone on before me. They didn't even, by the way, how was my material? So this has been Talk Funny. We're going to be with Steve again next week. So thanks for dropping by, Steve, and Talk Funny.
Thanks a lot.
I'm Mark Bailey. We'll talk to you next week.